Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hope you're doing well. We're continuing our deep dive and analysis of this radical feminist book. I do follow them, a lot of these women, on Twitter/X, and I do longer refutations on my blog. And you just gotta type in the tags there, and you'll be able to read those posts. Some are longer, some are more concise. But I do make it a practice to wrestle with their ideas so that people can hear a counterpoint, alright? Because someone has to be able to counter them in a non-cliche way. Even though this is more daunting and dry at times, it's an honest approach to their ideas instead of just repeating the same right-wing talking points or red pill talking points that don't really provide you with more nuance. So that's my aim here. We're going to continue. This section was titled Labors of Love, and she's going to go on talking about men, obviously. So buckle up, buttercup. Let's begin. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Men are almost never asked to sacrifice their fundamental identity, swallow their sexual longings, or stifle their ambitions in order to have a love relationship and a family life. Okay, now let's dig into this. Okay, she contends men are never asked, almost never asked, to sacrifice their fundamental identity. Actually, she bashes on Christians, so I'm going to answer this from a Christian and a Muslim perspective. Inshallah. A Christian man is told to not base his identity off of the amount of women he sleeps with. Okay? He's not supposed to be a playboy or anything along those lines. If you meet those good Mormon boys, or you meet a devout European Catholic, you will see that their identity is linked to the church, and when they get married, they are the patriarch of the family, and they are to dedicate their time to the sustenance of their family. Okay? It's quite different than the atheistic view. Alright? Quite different. They have a whole different ethical system. For a Muslim, when he marries, he has a huge responsibility. When he becomes of age, he has a responsibility to tend to his womenfolk, to be the leader of his family. His identity cannot be like a Andrew Tate playboy, partying with hoes on a yacht, doing stuff like that, slinging drugs, making it rain on a stripper's tits. No. Their identity is something of being a slave to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, obeying the Sharia, and they have to constantly discipline themselves and be a proud Muslim. A good example of a Muslim. That is a sacrifice. They can't give in to shaitan's urges, okay, to go deflowering as many women as possible while trying not to get STDs and stuff like that. They're not into that. If they're good, mind you. So their identity when they get married isn't just about them spending money on their clothes. Now they must spend money on diapers, baby toys, baby clothes, paying the bills, making sure their wife has their period pads, has a little bit of pocket money to spend on hygiene products or whatever she wants to buy. He's a family man. The identity of the bachelor is different than that of the married man. They must put the bachelor mindset to rest and take up the gauntlet of fatherhood, husbandhood. So I disagree. Women and men must sacrifice, but it is a noble sacrifice. And then she goes further, swallow their sexual longings. What a load of, I'm going to use an old school word, malarkey. Pretending men don't have to swallow sexual longings is absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely. Christian men, for one, they literally have to be monogamous, which is a sacrifice. To have one woman forever, for 50 years till death, that is a sacrifice. Huge. Huge for men. And sure, you can say for women as well, but men and women are different. A man who's polygamous, he still has to have a sacrifice to where he can't go more than 4 to get married, right? Different conversations around concubinism and whatever, but he has to be able to maintain these women, treat them right, you name it. He cannot just do a muta marriage every week with a different broad. No. They have to be disciplined. Have to. Or stifle their ambitions in order to have a love relationship and a family life. Okay. Sorry, there are a lot of men who won't take certain positions because they want to spend time with their kids. I have followed a lot of pages where it's called like masculine soul, or basically it's non-red pill manosphere stuff, and they're constantly talking to the like older men or making posts towards younger men about how important it is to be a present father, not always gone at work. Like, you look at how, like, I like Patrick McDavid, but I question about how much time he spends with his kids. You know, there are some men who are chasing so much money and so much status and full-blown, you know, careerism, that their kids are on the back burner and they know it. Right? But there are plenty of men throughout history that we don't know who were given a choice. Do you want to be the CEO? Do you want to be the manager? Do you want this? Do you want that? Do you want a promotion to be the chef? You name it. And there was this pause in them where they thought, nah, I gotta help my wife. I want to be with my wife. I want to be with my children. I need relax time to do working out or whatever. No. And they sacrifice. There are a lot of women who they do want to spend more time with their husbands, and they don't always want their husbands at work. So, to pretend that men don't sacrifice money in order to be with their family is absurd. So you can see right here how she really does hate men. She hates heterosexual men. She said this in the previous episodes. Go through and watch it. She doesn't like white heterosexual Christian men, but she's silent on heterosexual black Muslims. Okay? She sure as hell doesn't say anything about the Jews. Heterosexual Jews, right? But Christians are very easy pickings now. So the fact that she would just lie and be like, no, men never have to discipline their sexual urges. They don't ever have to not take on an identity that they want. If it was possible for men to... Okay, hold on. I'll go a different angle. Even in video games, look at some of the storylines of the characters that the young men like to play. They make a sacrifice for the greater good. Joel taking care of Ellie in The Last of Us, right? He took on an identity of, at first, well, it's not a relationship, but a duty. So let's put it that way. Men have to change their identity based on the duty they're assigned and the duties they take up, right? Responsibilities change the identity of the man, whether he likes it or not. So she's wrong. There are lots of men who took on tasks that ended up changing them and changing what they believed in, who they were. So she's completely wrong. In fact, since the limited sexual revolution of the 1960s all but destroyed the social obligation on men to support women in marriage, men are now free to be as promiscuous as they like with their hearts, with barely any social sanction against abandoning a partner. Okay, so hold up. Wait a minute. So, the sexual revolution destroyed the social obligation on men to support women in marriage. So she's saying this. So she right here, she's like, well, the sexual revolution made it so men don't want to take care of women in marriage. Then previously, she said the sexual revolution is good for women because now they can be as promiscuous as they want. So she recognizes it was detrimental towards men wanting to provide for their women, but then says today it's a good thing for women because they get to walk away from marriage and get to be promiscuous. It's very bizarre. It's almost like she kind of forgot her messaging there. A social sanction against abandoning a partner. Now, there's not too many social sanctions on women leaving their husbands or husbands, paying for their woman's abortion, right? A lot of men, Andrew Schultz even, like these guys say that they've paid, they normalize paying a whore you slept with to get an abortion, right? So these women get so many abortions, they get health problems, they have psychological problems, and they use a lot of drugs to cope, and then their lives are ruined. Their beauty is faded. Their soul is more gray because of how many children they've snuffed out of this world, and they get tossed aside. So the social sanction against abandoning a partner isn't as strong anymore because feminists promote abortion. Oh, just get on the pill, get an abortion, and you'll be fine. It was the Christians who were like, no, you have to stay, shotgun weddings, right? But she would be against that. So what is it, woman? That's what I'd ask her. You say the sexual revolution made it so men didn't feel obligated to support women in marriage. And then you say that there wasn't any social sanctions against abandoning a partner. So it seems that you're pointing out how the sexual revolution hurt men, but then you glorify it for women. So which is the truth? If it's bad for one, why isn't it bad for the other? It's a beautiful gray day, and I don't know how the sun's gonna be, right? So if it looks kind of like dark and gray, it is daytime. It's just that it's very gray outside. It is no longer taboo, if it ever was, for men to walk away from their families because they have grown bored. Aha! Notice this talking point here. Men walking away because they're bored. Don't these red pill MGTOW guys say that women are divorcing their husbands because they're bored? Do you see the similar talking points? They're both accusing each other of being bored or sexually frustrated or tired. Straight men are routinely forgiven for pursuing their desires, even at the cost of existing family commitments. I hope to be part of that change, right? It doesn't help when you have women like Pearly Things, the rotten soul, who are saying it's not a big deal to cheat. It is a big deal, because you have a family commitment and you need to discipline your phallus and not be a hedonistic animal. So they need to think about their family first and control their desires. But gay men are just as promiscuous. Lesbians can cheat as well. Bisexuals. I think it would be very hard for bisexual women to get married to another bisexual woman because she can cheat on you with a woman or a man. Further, there's a lot of trans widows I noticed growing out. Pay attention to it. Women who are married to men, their men start exploring face apps that swap your gender. They go on these Reddit forums. They start to watch more and more trans adult content, and they want to transition. Like that guy who worked with Mr. Beast. I forget his name, but he had a wife and a child. Now he starts doing hormone replacement therapy and is trans or whatever. So there are men who are queer or gay, whatever you want to call them, who abandon the women, the heterosexual women they married and their children. Okay? So she fetishizes how victimized the queer rainbow mafia is, yet is ignoring how heterosexual women marry these men, and these men all of a sudden switch up on them, right? Traumatizing them for life. It's pretty brutal. Pretty brutal. So, I'll be as controlled as I can with my words because we're on YouTube, but I do think there's a lot of shame where people walk away in the white community. Yeah, in the Latino community, the Asian community, like in Chinese, Japanese culture, is very rare. But she's black, and she's not mentioning how the single motherhood rise in the black community. She's not mentioning anything about black men. And she's ignoring how Christians try really hard to keep their families together. They really do, you know. But it'll change, inshallah. More people will get serious, I believe. So we're not nihilists here. But straight women who do the same are considered unnatural. Because as a woman, if you are 30 and you got 4 kids, in your 30s you got 4 kids, you get divorced, it's very hard for you to find a man who wants to if he has no kids, he's gonna marry you and financially support your 4 kids. That is a heavy burden. Children are a blessing, but it takes a special kind of man to be able to do that, you know. It's not easy. Your body has the mum-tum, the stretch marks. You're not your 21-year-old pre-child self, you know. Men are visual. It's very hard for them. And if you're not in shape, that's even harder. Okay? So you have to look at how our beauty is a tool, you know. But polygamy can help women become 2nd, 3rd, and 4th wives, so they can be taken care of by a man who's ready to do that and earn blessings, right? Through helping the needy. And a single mom is needy, and she has to be humble, though. She has to be very humble and not boastfully arrogant, I'm a queen, I'm a goddess attitude in order to get a new man. But before you walk away, think about it, because you need somebody to take care of you. Just make better choices on who you get. Make better choices. Stop opening your legs to men who are going to disappoint you. This means, again, that where love exists between men and women, it is undermined by an imbalance of power. Well, as us Muslims say, Allah has made one to succeed the other. Men are the caretakers of women. They've been given more authority, physical prowess. A man with healthy testosterone got energy for days. When I'm on my period, I think many women will say this. You're tired, man. You're just like, I'm tired. Like, okay, let me show you something. Oh, okay, let's give a real raw example, because this witch doesn't really seem to get it. You just had a baby. Your body hurts. You're spinning in your head of like sleep deprivation, bleeding, pain, swollen breasts, and the little babies needs you and you're crying, and they're crying. Your husband, he's strong, mashallah, he's healthy, fit, inshallah, and he's able to be like, I'm gonna go out in the world, make money, come home, and I will help you, you know, like, he's there. Like, imagine a man who can pick up his wife in his arms while she's holding the baby. You see what I'm saying? Like, a strong man who has this energy to help you. Naturally, a man like that is gonna have an imbalance of power. Money isn't the only form of power. Okay? It's not the only form of power. And that should be noted. You both have the power to be good, to be role models, but you gotta know when to let someone else drive. If you as a mom are overburdening your mind with like, gotta pay this bill, gotta go here, gotta go there, gotta go to work, gotta take care of this, it's a lot. You have your area and he has his, and handing him over, like, if I had to go to the DMV and get the sticker and do anything to do with the car, I'd go nuts. What is wrong with the transmission? Like, how do I change a tire? I don't want to do anything with the car. There's so much stress. Like, what the hell? I gotta go talk to a mechanic? I get it. Some women are like, what? I do that, but I don't want to do that if I don't have to. Husband, they talk all the time in cars or whatever. Like, they got it. I'm okay, take care of it. You know? And, like, the generation of men who knew how to fix things. Like, okay, there's a plumbing problem, fix it. You need to build a shed, they fix it. You know, if a woman has to do it, you do it. You ain't got no choice. But I have my area, and he has his, and there's some things I don't want to do. Just don't want to do it. It's too much. So there's an imbalance of hierarchical domain, right? But that's a good thing. You gotta think how much pressure you can take as a woman. And women, you age. I heard one, gold digger say something that I think was very true. Women, the more stress you take on, the more it ages you. The more burnt out and tired you look, and the less feminine you look, and less beautiful you look. And then I started thinking about these burnt out nurses who are working, smoking cigarettes, their face is wrinkled like a raisin. They just look like tore up from the floor up. Like, you can see the difference. Like, there's the gracefully aged women, and then there's women who look like they've been put through the meat grinder. And I've worked with both. And I've served both. When I was working for a Greek boss, she was older, but she had class. And she still looked young even though she was old. I don't know how to explain it. And then you work with some women who are like pulling hard shifts, like 12-hour shifts. And they just look gray, like stale bread. They just feel like dead, and they're drinking coffee or chugging Red Bull energy drinks and chain smoking. Their teeth are yellow. They don't put lotion on. They're burnt out, and they're single. And they're in their 50s and 60s. It's strange. Like, use a fictional example, like the Golden Girls. Those women are classy old ladies who have some finesse to them. Even though it's like a fictional thing, they still had this way of like, we're aging, but we're classy, right? And then you see someone who's like super stressed out, that looks like Rosie O'Donnell, and you're like, oh, no. So the imbalance of power, estrogen versus testosterone, is just different. Like, us mamas, we handle our children and we're like, we're going, we're surviving, we're powering through. Men are like, stand up and just thug it out. In nature, men will do bushcraft. The time where men would go they would line up in a field, sword in hand, and there would just be pure chaos. Pure chaos. Like, just one person's losing a hand, other one has like guts on the floor. The amount of chaos, we're different. Like as a mom, you put the baby on your back, get on the horse, I'm fleeing. Unless they grab me, then it's like, but I'm out there. Hide, survive, thrive. Men, it's confront, dominate, destroy. It's a different type of strategy, right? So that's the imbalance of power, and that's okay. Right? We don't need to imitate men, but we don't need to be weak either. It's good to delegate some power to your husband. You don't want to be overbearing. I like it when I can say, like, can you handle it? And I go play with the children, like, go talk to the landlord, or go talk to so-and-so, or deal with men. It's, oh my gosh. So much better when you can tell your husband, can you talk to them? You know, and they go do the man thing. I don't want to have to be like, okay, gotta get serious. Gotta show this man I'm about business. You know, I have to put on a whole different demeanor. You know, you gotta navigate. How do you talk to a man without being too soft? Right? It's a lot of stress. But you can just be like, there's my husband. He'll take care of it. I like that. What do you think? Let me know. It must be negotiated on unequal terms, where for one party the stakes are always higher. There are few remaining ways for men to hurt women and continue to feel good about themselves. This sort of casual brutality is one of them. Men have always held the power when it comes to intimacy, but they also hold a great deal of power in love relationships. Men holding the power when it comes to intimacy. She says sex, but I change it to intimacy because it just gets too vulgar. Like that word is buzzing in my head. It's quite repetitive and excessive. I think. Okay, there's such a. I struggle with this one because I can see how like the witchy, occultish Ishtar woman. They can really bring down a strong man if he succumbs to his ween. If he is led by his ween, he can be led to destruction. Okay? If a woman, she just gotta take her top off and do a little jiggle and you're just like hypnotized, she got you. She got the power. But if a man is stoic, reserved, and is able to tell a beautiful woman no, kind of like Gilgamesh, or Prophet Yusuf, peace be upon him, or Odysseus, when he told Calypso, the goddess, like, I want to leave this island, I don't want to be here, I want my human wife, Penelope, even though she isn't as beautiful and attractive as you. That's when a man becomes, like, potent and women flock to it. Because they're like, he knows how to say no. And then the tables turn. The tables turn. I like it more when my husband doesn't make eye contact with women. He's more stern. It's very attractive. But if he was like a liberal, like charismatic, always smiling, like being like a Justin Trudeau of Canada style, I'd hate him. I'd be like, ew. You deserve to be beaten. I wouldn't have the same respect. So, it's a mystery on who really has the power when it comes to intimacy. Because one thing is true. A woman can buy a fake phallus and a machine. And it just does that motion. A man can buy a robot. But it's like creepy because it's like dead. So that's the mystery about the genders. Can they replace each other with an inanimate object when it comes to fulfilling that urge? But a man is weaker when he just uses his hand in order to satisfy himself instead of getting married and fulfilling that right that his body wants with a human, not a stupid robot. So sometimes I think women hold the power. Sometimes I see how a disciplined man holds the power. You know? So it depends. What do you think? But they also hold a great deal of power in love relationships. I don't know. Let's see how. Most of them did not ask for this power, and far too few of them wield it responsibly. Little boys looking for love and adventure did not invent the idea that a girl's life is empty, meaningless, and a failure until she has found a man to love. Hold up here. I get it. I get this term of like, a man shouldn't complete you. If you become a widow, if you're infertile, you still have to find purpose in life. I get it. Okay? A man adds to your life if you pick the right one. The meaningless part, my life isn't meaningless if he goes away. My life wasn't meaningless if he wasn't there. He just adds another layer of meaning to my life. You see what I'm saying? A failure? I do think if you can't secure a mate, it shows that your personality was lacking. Or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is testing you, and maybe in paradise you'll get your partner. Because not everyone's guaranteed. But it can also mean you need to lower your standard, right? If you can't, not everyone can marry a man of extreme wealth. You could have a middle class working man who works as an electrician, a plumber, construction worker, get you a village guy. There's tons of immigrant men coming across the border. Hard working, not obese, not woke, not liberal, great fertility. Their testosterone is great. They grew up in the rural areas. They're not raised with city soy. That's a chance. Passport bros say go get some poor woman in Thailand, bring her here, when us American women can be like, there's men showing up all across the border, right? So you just gotta be open to something different. If I would have waited around for an American white guy, I probably would have never got married. They have a different type of woman they want. I want Britney Spears, right? Nah. Get you an immigrant. They feel lucky to have you because you're the different one, right? You are something different. You just gotta be okay with race mixing. Some people don't want a race mix. They're racist, whatever. You can go to a different race, opposites attract sometimes. But that ideology is horrifyingly convenient all the same. It is important to be honest about how straight men come to use the structure of love relationships as well as sexual violence to suck the marrow out of women and girls. Now that's a very unique example. The bone marrow, to collapse her bones and make her weak. If you get with the wrong guy, he can totally scar you for life. That is true. But that can happen from any person you give your heart to. Okay? You can't sit here and tell me lesbians don't commit violence, don't get divorced, and don't heartbreak. Heartbreak is heartbreak. Relationship is risky, but it's worth the contest, I'd argue. It's worth the contest. You just have to know the limits of how far you let someone in, and you can never really fully trust another human being. You do your duty, you care for them, but you don't set your hopes too high, because you'll be let down. If you expect less and they give you more, you feel more satisfied. It is not just about acts of physical cruelty or abuse. It's also about the everyday assaults on women's self-worth that have become part of the lung language of heterosexuality. Not R-wording or beating your partner has long been the standard for decent male behavior in straight relationships. So what, is it okay in gay relationships then, woman? She just constantly if you talked like her about the Rainbow Mafia, you'd be deplatformed. But it's okay for her because she's a queer, as she says, and she gets to just attack heterosexuals. I thought you weren't supposed to discriminate against sexuality, but it's okay to discriminate against the heterosexuality? Irony. Not R-wording or beating your partner has long been the standard for decent male behavior in straight relationships, when it ought to be the baseline. It is the baseline. Okay? It is. Which race beats their women the most in America? Someone look into it. What women report being beaten the most? The bar is low. The bar is in the floor. And a lot of straight men still fail to clear it. Look up the domestic violence rates with lesbians. I'll tell you myself. Even me. If I was a lesbian, which I'm not, but if I was, I don't see what would be wrong with hitting another woman. They're a woman, they're my same gender, I can hit them. I don't want to hit my husband because he's stronger than me. He's stronger than me, and he's gonna win. Usually, I'll fight for my life. I'll get an object if I have to defend my life, but he's stronger. So it's kind of like it's not a real contest. But I'm not gonna take disrespect from another woman. If she's the same size as me, even if she's fat, she's a woman. You're gonna see. That's why I'm not a lesbian. Well, I'm not attracted to women, but I guess you're supposed to say you would never hit your partner. But if I was a lesbian and I was married to a woman and she's getting hard with me, like in my face, we're putting hands on you. I'm not gonna tolerate that. It's different. Like, I don't get it. Like, okay, so if a woman argues with me in the street, she wants to roll up and get squared. Okay, we're gonna fight. I'm gonna curb check you. You're gonna get hurt. But all of a sudden now you're my partner, and you're disrespecting me, and I have to take it. I don't see it the same because you're a woman. It's okay. Domestic violence is supposed to be wrong, but that's just because it's domestic violence, but you're a woman. So I don't have to be afraid of you. I don't want to have a fight with my husband because I know he's stronger than me and he'll win. But I'm not going to take your abuse as a woman because I can win. And then I'll show you who's the boss. It's kind of showing me a little bit about myself. I guess that would mean if I was lesbian, I guess that would mean I'm the dominant one. They'd have to be the submissive. Because I'm not gonna... But see, with my husband, I'm the submissive and he's the dominant. It's weird. I don't know how lesbians do it. But it would be more confusing. And gay men are they slap each other. Just stupid. They hate each other. I shouldn't laugh. Domestic violence isn't funny. But it's just different. When a very queer, flamboyant, effeminate gay man backhands another gay man, and it's different. And then you have two butch lesbians beating each other up. It's just different. I just see it different than how I would see a man with a very delicate, graceful woman. It's not even. You know what I mean? It's just not even. But there's more of a level playing field. But no one should put their hands on each other. But I would have a harder time controlling my temper if a woman put her hands on me. Because I don't have that impulse control where if you're a woman and you put your hands on me, that's it. But if a man, well, I would defend myself against a man. But I'm not going to instigate a fight with a man. There's more of okay, he's stronger than me. I need to talk to him. Let's have some reasonableness here. But someone who's the same body weight as me and height, it's more even. But I don't know, I'm not lesbian, so I don't know how they think of it. But they should do some studies on that. We should all look into it and see how that is. Because I would like to know, because my cousin, she's a bisexual, and her and her girlfriend would fight, so, and my cousin would be the butch. I don't know. I don't get it. I really don't. Weird. But like I said, she's trying to pretend here that only heterosexuals have the bar so low when it comes to, violence. I'm just not buying it. And for good reason. If a lack of active physical harm were the baseline of straight male behavior, rather than the gold standard, if women were entitled to expect more from their primary relationships than simply to survive them, perhaps they would feel more comfortable demanding more from the men in their lives in private as well in public. Okay, perfect thing here. Okay, so if women were entitled to expect more from their relationships, you can have standards, but men can have standards too. See, you can't say, well, a man can't he has to want to be with a fat lady. He has to want to be with a woman who's slept with 100 men. He has to want to take on somebody who's had, 6 kids by 6 different baby daddies. Okay? The new one is, if a man says he wants an actual biological woman and not a trans woman, they call him a transphobe. So now he can't even have the standard of who he wants to be intimate with. But here, she's saying, well, women, they should be able to be entitled and expect more from their relationships. What is it called when you want all the privilege? You want to be able to have your standards, but you don't want him to have his. That's quite cruel, quite selfish, very audacious. Okay, you can demand whatever you want in your relationship, but that doesn't mean it has to be fulfilled. And sometimes your standard can be too high. And some bars will be met and others won't. So you have to watch out. You have to think. So she mentioned quite a lot of stuff here that I've seen on the RadFems. Stuff that makes us think, have a conversation with ourselves, hold up the black mirror to our minds. It's important to have these nuanced conversations here. But I just think it's very interesting how she's allowed to discriminate against heterosexuals, but you will lose your job if you question the relationships of trans or gays. I just find it so odd. So odd. I mean, free speech, right? But make it actually free speech for all then. Not just special privileges for some. And like I said, she will refuse to talk about Islam and Jews, but she gladly is dunking on Christians. So, it's strange, but just don't forget that line. She said that men walk away from their families because they've grown bored. And that is something that we hear the red pill people say, and the MGTOW people say, and I don't think I've ever heard of someone walking away because they're bored. If you're poor and you're not able to have any fun, that could be an issue. But like I've mentioned people to have hobbies, right? I try to lead by example. You have to find a way to entertain your mind. Your husband's out making the money. You gotta find your own interests. Be an interesting person. Develop your character. Gain new skills, right? Explore your own mind and find what you like. Your husband can't be your clown. That don't make sense, right? Let me know what you think. It's been a very thought-provoking video, controversial, exploring topics that make us feel uncomfortable, but nonetheless we grow from it, right? Very interesting. Very interesting. I'm going to turn on the lamp for the next videos because it's getting kind of dark. It's like 12 o'clock. It's like so gray as if it was like 7. If you'd like to join my blog and support the channel, I'm not monetized on any social media app. So if you'd like to support the channel and get some of my other content that I write on the blog, go ahead and join it. I always comment it in the comment section usually, and I mention it in the description box. So that's one way you can help. Okay, take care, fam.